Leaders of the BRICS bloc of emerging economies are meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Top of the agenda are Donald Trump's trade tariffs and the risks to the world economy. The BRICS nations include just over half the world's population and 40% of global economic output.
Something remarkable is unfolding in the world of global power politics, quietly but unmistakably. An alliance that began with just 5 nations is now swelling into a powerhouse capable of reshaping the way the global economy moves money, oil, and influence. This is not just an expansion, it's a calculated rebalancing of global power, and it's happening under the banner of BRICS, the rise of a new economic giant. Back in the early days, BRICS was a catchy acronym that stood for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. 5 emerging economies working together, aiming to amplify their influence in trade and finance. But 2025 has rewritten the rules. What began as a compact coalition has now evolved into a sprawling alliance with 11 full members, 13 partners, and 32 countries eager to join the inner circle. The transformation has been nothing short of dramatic. On January 6, 2025, Indonesia's membership became official, bringing a vast consumer market and strategic Southeast Asian presence into the fold. Saudi Arabia was invited to join BRICS in August 2023, with its membership scheduled to take effect on January 1, 2024. As of now, Saudi Arabia had not yet finalized its membership. The kingdom is still evaluating the invitation and balancing its strategic alignment with both the US and the BRICS bloc. At the start of 2024, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates joined the bloc, each bringing strategic value from access to key shipping routes to untapped natural resources. According to recent data from the 17th BRICS Summit, the expanded bloc now accounts for over 45% of global GDP and more than 50% of the world's population, signaling a significant presence in the global economy. The waiting list. If the 11 current members tell a story of strategic growth, the list of applicants tells an even bigger story about global ambition. Out of the 32 nations signaling interest, 23 have already submitted formal applications. The lineup reads like a roll call of strategically important players. Bahrain, Malaysia, Turkey, Vietnam, Belarus, Sri Lanka, Mexico, Kuwait, Thailand, and Uzbekistan are among the most active candidates. For oil-rich Bahrain and Kuwait, joining BRICS means securing new markets for their energy exports, while benefiting from the bloc's push to reduce reliance on the US dollar in global trade. Mexico brings something different to the table, a potential gateway to Latin American markets that would greatly expand BRICS' geographic influence. Belarus offers a path into Eastern Europe, opening up a strategic region previously out of reach for the alliance. The appeal is clear. BRICS offers access to the new development bank, an alternative source of financing that has already funded $32 billion across 96 major projects since 2016. Many of these loans are issued in local currencies, sidestepping the dollar and giving developing economies a way to finance infrastructure and industry without exposing themselves to currency volatility. The 2025 Rio Summit. The turning point for this new era of BRICS came during the July 2025 summit in Rio de Janeiro. Expansion was the headline topic, but so were the rules of the game. Brazil, under its presidency, pushed a vision focused on building deeper ties within the global South, shifting the bloc's tone away from outright anti-Western rhetoric and toward cooperative development.
They're not just observing global shifts, they're preparing to lead them. Quietly, strategically, and with growing precision, the BRICS alliance is positioning itself for a transformation that could redefine the global balance of power. In boardrooms, across diplomatic channels, and behind closed geopolitical negotiations, this once symbolic group of emerging economies is laying the foundation for its boldest evolution yet. With 34 countries expressing interest and 23 of them formally applying to join.
But the summit wasn't without drama. Xi Jinping missed the meeting for the first time since 2013, citing scheduling conflicts. Vladimir Putin, facing an active ICC warrant, addressed the summit via video link rather than appearing in person. The optics were significant. 2 of the bloc's most powerful figures absent from the stage, but the conversations carried on. Behind the scenes, a key tension persisted. China and Russia are in favor of rapid expansion, eager to draw as many countries as possible into the BRICS sphere. Brazil and India, however, prefer a more cautious approach, wanting to ensure that new members align with the bloc's long-term strategic goals. This divide over pace and criteria could shape how the next wave of admissions unfolds. While BRICS has been expanding its influence, it's also been navigating a tense global trade climate, especially with the United States. In 2025, what many analysts described as a trade war between the US and BRICS intensified, with tensions linked to the bloc's continued purchases of discounted Russian crude oil. According to US officials, President Donald Trump adopted a strategy of targeting BRICS members individually with new tariffs, framing it as a response to what he said were trade practices undermining Western sanctions. The first move came on Liberation Day, when China faced steep import tariffs. Beijing responded with its own retaliatory measures, reported to have reached as high as 145%, before eventually reducing them to around 30%. In a show of unity, Chinese state media reported that Beijing opened its markets wider to fellow BRICS members, creating alternative trade channels that bypassed the US market. India was next in line. Once described by Trump as a close partner, New Delhi faced an initial 25% tariff, which later doubled to 50%. Brazil soon followed, also hit with 50% tariffs, prompting President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, according to official statements, to call for a coordinated BRICS response rather than holding direct talks. South Africa was targeted with 30% tariffs. Here, the dispute extended into political territory, with Trump alleging discriminatory policies against the country's white minority, an accusation South African officials rejected. Reports at the time also noted that the US granted entry to certain South African citizens under special circumstances, adding to the diplomatic friction. Russia was not given new tariffs, largely because it was already under existing trade restrictions, but Moscow positioned itself at the forefront of BRICS de-dollarization efforts, a policy its leaders said was designed to reduce reliance on the US dollar and shield member economies from financial pressure. The New Development Bank. Since its creation in 2016, the NDB has approved $32 billion in loans across 96 infrastructure and development projects. What makes it different is not just the scale, but the method. Many loans are issued in local currencies rather than the US dollar.
Indonesia has officially joined BRICS as a full member, according to the Brazilian government's announcement on Monday, marking a significant expansion for the influential bloc. The new addition brings the total number of BRICS members to 10, which now includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and Indonesia, alongside recent entrants such as Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. This enlargement reflects BRICS' growing influence among the emerging economies and its ambitions to reshape the global economic order.
This approach gives members and partners a powerful tool to reduce dependence on Western-dominated financial systems. It also shields them from dollar volatility, which can wreak havoc on budgets in developing economies. For nations like Egypt, Indonesia, or Ethiopia, access to this kind of financing is not just a convenience, it's a strategic necessity, a shift in global governance. The expansion of BRICS represents more than just an economic bloc growing in size. It's part of a larger shift toward a multipolar world, one where power is distributed more evenly rather than concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy Western nations. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres captured this sentiment in stark terms. This system was created by rich countries to benefit rich countries. Practically no African country was sitting at the table of the Bretton Woods Agreement. BRICS, in this sense, is positioning itself as a corrective and alliance where developing nations have a seat, a voice, and the ability to shape the agenda. The strategic value of energy. Energy is the invisible currency driving much of this story. If Saudi Arabia were to formally join, it could give BRICS a significant advantage in oil markets, not just through its production capacity, but also via its leadership role in OPEC. With Russia already a major energy player and countries like the UAE and Iran in the mix, the bloc could hold substantial sway over future global energy pricing and distribution. For Washington, this concentration of energy power outside of Western control is a serious concern. If BRICS nations decide to conduct more of their oil trade in non-dollar currencies, it could weaken one of the key pillars of US economic dominance. Unity or fragmentation? The path forward for BRICS will depend on whether it can maintain unity while expanding. Each new member brings fresh opportunities, but also new challenges, diverse political systems, competing regional interests, and varying levels of economic development could make consensus difficult. The trade war with the US adds another layer of complexity. Trump's strategy of targeting members individually may strain their unity, especially if some countries decide that US market access is more valuable than bloc solidarity. On the other hand, the pressure could also solidify BRICS' resolve to create an economic ecosystem resilient to outside interference. What is certain is that the bloc's influence is no longer theoretical. With its expanding membership, growing financial tools, and collective control over key resources, BRICS is poised to be a central player in shaping the next chapter of the global economy.
It's evidence of the growing connection between Brazil and China, the B and the C of the BRICS Plus coalition. This is a group that hopes to rival the US-led G7.
The global stakes. The implications of BRICS expansion reach far beyond its member states. For developing countries, it offers an alternative to the Western-led Order 1 that promises more favorable financing terms, access to new markets, and greater political leverage. For established powers, it's a challenge to a system that has served their interests for decades. As BRICS continues to grow, its decisions on membership, trade policy, and financial strategy will ripple through global markets. From currency exchanges to energy prices, the effects of this expansion will be felt by businesses, governments, and individuals worldwide. What do you think? Will BRICS' expansion create a truly balanced world order? Let us know in the comments. We'll be watching this story closely, because the next chapter in this power shift is already being written.